to pay the political price to ensure that Netanyahu will be re-elected. So the last election and this election, it's about, secular vis-a-vis religious, and which kind of Jewish state it will be. It in the way of Shas or Yahudut Torah, or in the way of Lieberman. So, the whole crisis after the Israeli election, it's between the coalition, the right-wing coalition actually, and it's about the identity of the Jewish state. So when, I was here for the last 2 days, and I met with Sanders staff and different staffers in the Congress and in the Senate, and I was surprised to see that there is a resolution there that talk about two-state solution, recognizing Israel as Jewish and democratic state. And I told them, what's about us, guys? So in this sense, when we talk about Israel, we have to go beyond this Jewish statement and to think which kind of state this will be. And the failure of the opposition camp in Israel to present a vision, which kind of Jewish people you want to be, the Lieberman way or the Shas way. And this is one of the challenges that we see it in the last 20 years, actually, of the identity voting trends in Israel. Actually, it started in 77, and since 77, the right wing, in every election, deepened the identity voting trends inside Israel. And in the last election, you can see it, that the Russian community voted for Lieberman, and the ultra-Orthodox Mizrahi immigrants from the Arab countries, they voted for Shas, and the Ashkenazi ultra-Orthodox for Yahudut Torah. So identity voting and the issue of multiculturalism in Israel is very strong, and actually it's one of the obstacles on having the majority needed to create 61 seats to prevent Netanyahu to win again the election. And I think this is something that international actors are not aware of, how deep the identity voting is in Israel and how it's affect actually the whole voting. The unsolved crisis between the Mizrahi immigrants of the 50s, that they haven't been involved in the Nakba of 48, and the Ashkenazi left that, many of us think that this is the only allies that we have as the Palestinians in building future peace. I think this is one of the crisis still is taking place until now, and it's very important that we, as the people that want to promote peace and end for the tragedy of the Palestinian people, should understand, and this is the added value of us as a Palestinian, should understand why the peace left opposition camp are failing again and again for the last 20 years to make it in the election day and to get the 61 seats that are needed to create a new government. In the process of nation building for both nations, I think for the Jewish people and for us after the Nakba and dividing the Palestinians all over, we have the responsibility to include the Palestinian community inside Israel in the discourse. I'm happy that more and more people were interested here to listen to us yesterday and today, and it shows that more and more people understand the unique position that we have as a Palestinian citizens of Israel, and this unique will be used more and more in the future to strategize and to build game changer in the end of the day, to change the balance of fear and the balance of power that exists today in our region. And most of the Palestinians inside Israel, I have to say, would love to see one-state solution. Okay, we and the settlers, I know that there's some press here, but there's two groups that enjoy the one-state solution of Netanyahu. The settlers and we, the Palestinians inside Israel. We have 5,000 students that study in Jenin American University. We can't build university in Nazareth. 64 universities and colleges exist in Israel. All of them are Jewish colleges. We study there. But if we want to build university in Nazareth, it's prevented. We have actually appealed in the higher education against the Higher Education Council. We call to open a college in Nazareth. So economically, it's very stupid for the Israelis, I would say, because almost 10,000 Palestinian students that their parents beg their money inside Israel, they pay for Palestinian universities in the West Bank and in Jordan. Because we know, as a minority that the only tool to change our reality is education. And we invest in education. So as a result of this systematic discrimination, it helped us finally to meet, between youth, to have our young generation to meet the Palestinians from the other side and to build somehow, to rebuild the Palestinian nation. Now, one of the challenges that we face in ending our tragedy is that our ability to build the nation. It's Hamas, Fatah issue, and it's the Palestinians divided in different locations. And in this sense, we have been invited lately by the South Africans to talk about the reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah. And it was very important for the first time that the political leaders of the Palestinian community inside Israel will be involved in this process of trying to facilitate some kind of reconciliation and working together. Because at the end of the day, any nation in liberation process need, not united, but at least coordinated efforts to be able to do that. So in this sense, the good news that I would like to bring here, I hope that in 2 weeks it will still be the good news, that after the fragmentation that we suffered from in the last election, with a joint list, it looks like we're gonna do it again and build again the joint list. And it will be a very interesting exercise of Islamic groups sitting with the Communist Party in the Arab region and build some kind of joint vision, how we will try to change the discourse that exists in Israel. It's not enough for us to restructure our political system and to build the joint list and the High Follow-up Committee for Arab Citizens, but it's very important if we want to outreach and to liberate the Jewish majority from the occupation and the isolation mentality that exists today in Israel. So this is one step. The second step should be clear. We are here to talk to the Jewish Americans and not only to the Arab Americans. We want to liberate ourselves directly by talking to the Jewish Israelis and to liberate them from this isolation mentality that has been promoted since the Nakba and after that and before that even. We want to live in open countries that will enable people to move. We want to implement self-determination. We want to end the refugees' tragedy. But this process needs to be done in parallel, through international pressure, but also through outreach. The way that the South Africans did that during the apartheid, the struggle against apartheid, to try to also liberate the Jewish population inside Israel and outside of Israel from this occupation isolation mentality that have been promoted for the last 70 years. We see ourselves as game changers because we have this linguistic ability. Our physicians work in the Israeli hospitals. They treat Jews and Palestinians, and we have this unique status. We have been marginalized and victimized in the past. We are not willing to take this position anymore. I think today, Abu Mazen and Hamas, and also finally, 2 weeks ago, there was a big joke. There was this opposition demonstration against corruption of Netanyahu, and they decided that it will be Jewish demonstration. Okay, 55 seats, they were defeated in the election, and still after being defeated in the election, no, we don't want the Arabs, we want to exclude the Arabs. In few days, with very strong campaign, they have been forced to invite also the leaders of the Arab community to speak in that demonstration. I think it has to be clear for everyone here and also back home that without the Palestinian Arab community, there will be no 61 seats to ensure two-state solution or to ensure any kind of reconciliation between both nations. And since Trump, Ederson, and Netanyahu cooperate heavily before your election and before our election, we are here to ask you. We need your cooperation. I'm done. Less than a minute. We need your cooperation here on the ground. We just met with a team of Sanders and we told them, if you talk about progressive front of people, we are part of the progressive front back home. We are progressive Palestinians. We are looking for progressive Jews inside Israel, and we are looking for progressive Americans. We were happy to see people like Saba and Khalid and Aziz and Ibtisam and everybody around this table. and your involvement in the local election here and political, not only economically doing well, but we are happy to see that the community is doing much better in being politically proactive in the election here. I think this is needed. We need this political activism in your side here. We don't need, like I was arrested. What's your name? We just met before the discussion. I was arrested a year ago with my son, 18 years old, with my nephew. And when I went, I was taken to the police station. All the 20 people that were arrested before me were beaten. My son was bleeding. And when I went inside, I was beaten and my knee was broken and I was hospitalized. And then I was taken to the jail with a broken knee with my son, 18 years old. My first jail was when I was 18 years old. And for like 50 hours, you need to convince your son that there is a hope, that we will win one. And it will not be that we, the Palestinians, will defeat the Jews. There is nothing like this. The Jews failed to defeat us. And we need to find a way to create win-win situation. They will not disappear. We will not disappear. We don't have 22 countries. We have only one country, and we want to stay and to come back to this place, and we want to build future. So in this sense, I'm coming here with big hope. We have expectations from you. We need to change this current administration language. The deal of the century, it's the occupation. Nothing new. The annexation of Jerusalem, that's Bibi Netanyahu. The annexation of the Golan Heights, that's Bibi Netanyahu. The annexation of the settlements, that's Bibi Netanyahu. So guys, there is no news in the deal of the century. The only thing that we are here to try to prevent is when it will be declared that there will be another round of bloodshed in the region. We want to prevent another round of bloodshed. We want to build a new discourse, and we are here to call you to join forces with us to do it in a different way and to include the Palestinian community in the discussion that is taking place here for peace building and ending the occupation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. You really laid out quite a few issues for us to think about. And I was struck by 3 points in particular, in which you placed the Palestinian citizens of Israel at the center of all 3 of these. The first is an Israeli-Palestinian reconciliation, because as you said, this is not a conflict that began in 1967. It began at least in 1947, if not earlier. And so the Palestinians of 1948, as they're sometimes called, clearly have to play a role, as do another very marginalized group of Palestinians, which is the refugee community and the diaspora. The second issue is the critical role that your community is playing in internal Palestinian reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah. I think that's something new that we hadn't heard a lot of before. So I'd be very interested to hear more from you on what specifically there is taking place on that front, because it seems like a logical development that Palestinians inside Israel would play that role more broadly. And the third kind of issue that you put Palestinian citizens at the center of is in Israeli politics. And I think this is also surprising for a lot of people. It's certainly counterintuitive to American observers of Israeli politics, especially, which is that, specifically you said there is no 61 seats without the joint list or without the Palestinian minority politically. So all 3 of these, in a way, are kind of counterintuitive. So I wanted to ask you, in addition to, before, we'll open it up to questions in a minute, but if you could sort of lay out, it's true that we need to change the discourse in this country about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and about Israeli-Palestinian reconciliation. It's not just about occupation, it's also about the refugees. It's also about Palestinian minority in Israel. It's about rights. It's about equality more broadly. And so I think one of the opportunities that the collapse of an American-led peace process brings is it creates an opening for us to be able to change the conversation, because the Israelis are changing the conversation. They're trying to change the conversation about refugees, take that off the table, take Jerusalem off the table, take the two-state solution off the table. And so as bad as those developments are, I think we also have an opportunity to change the discourse and the narrative more broadly beyond Oslo, sort of the counterpart to that. So what is your advice on how we should be talking about this issue? Should we still be talking about a two-state solution? Should we be talking about one state from the river to the sea, whatever it's called? Should we be talking about confederation? What is the vision that you see that would allow us to have that conversation with American policymakers here, or more broadly, the diplomatic community around the world? And then if people give me a show of hands, I will start to take questions. Okay, Aziz. I'll keep a list. But I'll do that as he's answering. So I have.
You said no questions. Can I make short comment though? Later on, after Aziz.
Sure. Yeah.
Was it you or no? Khalid Safuri said no lectures.
No. Well, we don't want to have lectures for
So
sure.
no lectures. How about making a point or two?
You can make a point or two, I think, very briefly. So, okay. So Aziz and Saba. Okay. So we'll take three. I'll take 3 names, and then if people want to keep raising their hand, and Jafar, please go ahead.
On the 3 issues, I think the March of Return that is organized every year inside the Green Line. It's not the one in Gaza, actually. It started 20 years ago. And it's to put the issue of the internal displaced people on the table. And it started after Oslo, and the feeling that somebody is giving up the idea that part of the reconciliation process you need to deal with the core issues. You know, the breakdown of the Second Intifada, there was a reason why. Jerusalem was one of them. But the refugees were part of them, and the Palestinians inside Israel. So we have advocacy coordinator, young guy, that came from a village called Bir'im, small village in the Galilee. These guys, he works in the Knesset. Every week he goes to sit there at the Knesset and to advocate and to participate in the legislation process and to put our ideas. And I think some people here even sitting from internal displaced communities. And, you know, he can visit the kibbutz. That's it, and most of the kibbutz voters will vote for Meretz and even the Labour Party, but he can go back to his village. So one of the things that these young people, not after 3,000 years, after 70 years are doing, is to go back to the church every weekend and to have shifts of young people staying in the church there. So, and to open this issue of refugees, it's part of the reconciliation. You can't lie and say everything started in '67 and let's forget about other issues. Then because you sacrifice the refugees, and then you sacrifice Jerusalem, and then you sacrifice the Palestinians inside Israel, and then you sacrifice actually the Jewish immigrants that came from the Arab countries with their even cultural roots. Because today, with the Jewish nation state law, they created the legislation that say Arabic have been downgraded, and it's not anymore the official language that it has been before. Now, the Arabic is the language of the region. The Arabic is the language of half of the Jewish Israelis, and the Arabic is the language of the Palestinian community. So, like, how much isolated you could be to create such a legislation, basic law. So, in this sense, when you open issues, you open also the issue that we live in the Middle East and not in Malta. There is a general feeling, especially when you get the opportunity to sing in the Eurovision. There is a general feeling that Israel is isolated, that it's like Cyprus or Malta, and not part of the Middle East. So this is an issue, how to normalize Israel and to make it sure that, it will be open to the region, and it will not be open to the region without dealing with the core issues that the Palestinians are calling to put on the table. When it comes to the reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah, look, we can blame the Israelis on many things, and also the fact that they contributed to building Hamas and etc. But we have responsibility as Palestinians to know that there is a red lines, and we have to create some kind of our systems and our democratic institutions, and to be able to talk to each other. And more than this, not to serve anybody else's agenda. And most of the debate that took place in South Africa partly was about who will pay the salaries of the people that are serving two different entities that actually, in the end of the day, run two big jails. Gaza is big jail and the West Bank is big jail. So how we as the Palestinians will start to say Palestine first, okay, and to take in consideration that everybody else actually need the Palestinian cause or abuse the Palestinian cause for internal issues in different Arab countries and international actors. So in this sense, since we are not competing to become ministers with this illusion of having police officers and etc. in the way that the Palestinians in Gaza or Hamas and Fatah have in the West Bank and in Gaza, it's easier for us to sit, from organizations and political groups that are close to Hamas and close to the Islamic trends and the Communist Party together, and to say, okay, we have future. We don't need to agree on everything, but we need to sit around the table and we need to, at least lead, and I call it collective leadership. And I think what is done with a joint list is an exercise that we can learn, and it's actually the Tunisian exercise and our exercise that I think we can use it for Hamas-Fatah reconciliation process. Part of this process is something that nobody can deal with it publicly yet, but it's very, very important to have it also bottom line. Now, when it comes to the Israeli politics, yes, we are, we are actors. If it will be 10 seats or 6 seats. In 1993, the Rabin government wouldn't get the 61 seats without the 6 Arab members of the case of that. Today, we have 10 with the joint list, and we'll have probably 12 after the election. And any opposition will need the 10 or 13 to create coalition. But the serious challenge that we face is not only the unity of the Arab community, it's the fact that again and again the Israeli opposition failed to attract new communities to guarantee. Think about it: 13 seats with 48 seats. This is what less than 30% of the Jewish population support the opposition in Israel. You need to make serious change in what's so-called left peace camp opposition in Israel, in the two-state solution. This is like, let Bibi Netanyahu come to the Congress, and he's doing that actually. From what I understood, there is like piece of legislation resolution that have been presented lately, and the Israeli government is opposing this resolution. Let them. Why we have to be always the ones that offer them the exit? Let the Israeli government come to the international community and say we don't want two-state solution. I'm telling you, we as Palestinians inside Israel, we are, if we will be isolated in the green line, it's not nice to be minority. It's not like the Jewish America, 2% and have political power. We are 20% and we don't have today the political power. It's, if we will be isolated in Israel, look at, with open borders, the settlers can get married to Israeli citizens, but Palestinian from Barta'a village that have been divided in 48, united in 67, in Barta'a al-Sharqiyya and Barta'a al-Gharbiyya, if you are in Barta'a al-Sharqiyya, the same family it could be, get married, you will be married to somebody from the west side, you will not be able to get family unification. But if you are a settler, you can. So it's not called apartheid, it's something of racial segregation. when it comes to housing, there is also the Jewish nation law that is do that. So I'm not in favor of telling anybody we gave up on the two-state solution. What we talk about is to take the two-state solution and to upgrade the vision. Yes, there is like the Belgian exercise and the Canadian one, and there is the Spanish one. This whole two-state solution in the way that it has been promoted since Oslo, it's limited. You need to bring a new vision, also for the Jewish Israelis, because the Israeli left came, in 2005 and told the Israelis, we will disengage from Gaza and there will be peace. How there will be peace? Nobody told the Israelis that there will be tunnels and rockets day after because you isolate 1.5 million. So the Jewish Israelis want to see a new vision. They know that we are there. They know that there will be two-state solution. Look at the whole public opinion, research, deep research that, not, the ones that you ask general questions in the telephone, but real deep research. People know that there will be two-state solution. It's the question, how much time, how much blood? And our job is to make it as short as possible with less price than the price that Netanyahu and his friends want us to pay.
Thank you for that. So I have 3 people on my list, so I'm going to ask first Aziz and then Saba and Rick to ask their questions. Please identify yourself and be as succinct and to the point as you can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Aziz Fahmy, I'm a freelance journalist. Jafar, you talked about refugees, and I think you turned it off.
زي حبة الموز قربها على تمك.
إيه؟
زي حبة الموز قربها على تمك.
أحسن.
No.
خلاص أنا سامعك عزيز. Go ahead.
Okay.
The
Anyway.
others doesn't.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay, good. You talked about refugees. You kind of explained it a little bit in your answer to Khalid, but please specify, when you say refugees, you're only talking about the internal refugees inside the border of 48, or are you talking about refugees in the larger sense? That's one. Number 2 is that Asad Ghanem yesterday said that there is talk about forming a new party and a new coalition to replace the unified list. Can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to answer? Saba, do you want to make your comments?
Yeah, I can if you want. I've been with Jafar for the past few days, so I've been listening, and frankly, I'm delighted we worked. Thought I was loud without, but
Use it.
anyway, so I've been quite impressed with Jafar's very thorough analysis of the situation. The effort of bringing you here this time and last time, and hopefully we'll do it at least twice a year, is fruitful. Let me just say the following. The two most dangerous elements of the deal of the century are 2. One that you need to lead the fight against, and that is the Jewishness of the state, and we'll support you from here. And the second one is the killing of the UNRWA, or the elimination of the status that kept our cause alive, that is the refugee cause. They want to destroy that, to take it out of the equation, out of the discussion. We lead the fight, but we need your support inside of our homeland. Thank you.
We need a microphone in the back there for the 3rd question.
Yes. Is on?
Yes.
My question here, Jafar, is going to focus on the situation within Israel pre-67. And that is on the nature of the problem that underscores perhaps everything we talked about. What's your view on what it has been said that the real thrust of the problem is the failure of the majority Israelis, that is the Jewish Israelis, to accept the Israeliness of the Arab Israelis. And if that is so, do you have any thoughts on how you address what's in the heart then of the majority of Israelis, and who addresses that? Arab Israelis, Jewish Israelis, Americans, Jewish Americans, or whomever?
You want to go ahead and we have refugees, joint lists, UNRWA, and what was your first point?
The first point is the Jewishness.
Jewishness of the state,
identity of
the Jewish state, and the Arabness of Arab Israelis. And then I'll, if people still have questions, I'll take another round of hands.
Aziz, I meant refugees in general. Because even if you will deal with the internal displaced people, still the refugees in Lebanon and other places will be around, and you will need to deal with these issues. And I know that, like, I met here actually several Palestinian refugees that did well. Okay, that we met at the house of Nada Nazir Qadlawi, and they still remember the days of UNRWA, and they have the commitment also. Now, this is like very unique case in the history, that a nation of refugees for 2,000 years expect a nation of refugees for 70 years to forget about their homes and houses. It's very unique, it's impossible, like whenever you want to forget, you meet another Jewish citizen, and then you remember that they implemented the return after 3,000 years or 2,000 years. So in this sense, there is something that you can't expect people to forget about their rights after 100 years when you implement your right after 2,000 years. So in this sense, the meeting, the discourse, but like, I would start the process of reconciliation from inside, okay? The internal displaced people, and I think Ibtisam maybe is one, you are internal displaced people, in Kabul there is internal displaced people that until today, they feel, even they have villas, they feel that there's something that needs to be done to ensure that they feel that, like, yeah, they have a right. There is a people in Kabul that live, I think 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers far away from their houses. They vote. They are part of the political game in Israel. But they can't, Jewish American can't tomorrow come to Israel and to choose where he wants to live. But the guy from Kabul, from the village of Ibtisam, our friend, your wife, can't go back 3 kilometers away. Now, part of this reconciliation process to say, this is you live in the Arab region. You are part of this region. Your neighbors are Arabs and Palestinians. This isolation of the Jewish people, it's illusion when you isolate community in one place and then you say, that's it. I forget about my neighbors. I think we should start it from bottom up. We should start this process with the internal displaced people and take it as an opportunity to open the core issues around Jerusalem. Is not only about the capital of the state of Palestine. We have Muslims that want to go to Al-Aqsa every Friday. It's holy places, so there is core issues that when they negotiated Oslo, they said, let's put it, it's not important. In 2000, the breakdown, it started from Al-Aqsa. It started from Jerusalem. It started from Sharon invasion to Al-Aqsa, and it breakdown, and people were killed in Al-Fahim, and in Nazareth, and in Gaza. So you have to put these core issues in the table and start to deal with them, at least if it's not up-down in Camp David or in Oslo, etc., at least do it bottom-up. And I believe that the next stage should be bottom-up stage. And that's our added value. When it comes to the UNRWA, I don't think that the UNRWA...
new part,
Joint
Yeah.
list. Joint
the
list.
new part is
Look, there is good dynamics in the Palestinian community. when the four parties have been divided, the public punished the four parties. People didn't go and vote. There was a huge campaign. It was very powerful campaign against the four parties in the last election. Now the four parties have second round. I don't think that anybody is interested in fragmentation in our political representation in the Knesset. The question will be if we will be able to restructure the high follow-up committee and the political leadership inside that, and not the question of the Knesset. We have to ensure that we have maximum political representatives inside the Knesset. This is the job of everyone, also the job of the people that want to see independent figures as part of the joint list. If it will not happen now, it will mean for the next election there will be another political group. Ideologically, there is the Islamic movement, and there is three trends. Two current parties compete on the same national ideological agenda. So in this sense, there is no space for fifth agenda, but I don't think that there will be fragmentation. I think the unity of the joint list is almost secure, and it will take place. I hope that it will happen the next time. Ja'far, you said that you will be united, and you didn't. The expectation, the negotiations just started. I have the feeling that the public today is so strong that the political parties will have to respect the request and the demands, and they will be united in the way. It's too short to create any new political platform, so it will be one joint list. About the UNRWA, let me disagree with you. Saba, UNRWA did a great job for the Palestinian refugees, but the Palestinian refugees have been created by the Israeli policies. It wasn't created by the UNRWA. And the Israelis are the ones that can end the tragedy of the refugees. The UNRWA is helping people to survive and to try to live as humans. And, some people in Israel and here in the US think if you shut down the UNRWA, you shut down the refugees. The refugees is a result of what happened in 48 and later. If people are living in Berlin and they feel as refugees and they are Palestinians, okay, that's similar to Jews that were living in Paris and felt that they want to go back. So in this sense, the Palestinian refugees haven't been created by UNRWA, and the UNRWA is not keeping the issue. It will be there. It's the question how much the Palestinian refugees that still need UNRWA, how much they will suffer as a result of this policy, and what the reaction will be. Okay? You have to remember that the Palestinian struggle started from the refugees after 1965. So I'm not sure that it's smart when it comes to security issues to put the refugees in the corner and to tell them you don't have any resource, anybody that can help you. And I don't think that the Trump administration will kill the refugees issue, because these are human beings that they have rights, and in the end of the day, they want to implement their rights. About
The Jewishness of the state.
it's not the Jewishness.
Jewish
You have
state.
to listen carefully to it. He asked, he still think that Israel is Israel, not Israel is a Jewish state. There is like many people that still think that Israel can be Israel country, not a Jewish state. Unfortunately, even the term Israeli is a Jewish term in the end of the day. So, there was huge efforts also of the Palestinians inside Israel to become Israelis. I have to remind you that in the 50s, more than 95% of the Palestinians inside Israel went and voted, and they didn't declare their identity as Palestinians. My mom used to tell me, we are Palestinians. But after the Nakba, everybody was afraid from declaring the identity. So today I can say I am Palestinian, my son will say it more. And there is a total failure of building Israeli identity. And I don't think that in the end of the day, there will be one Jewish identity. Because we know it, you go to different neighborhoods, you will see the way that Shas want to live, and the way, third of the Russian immigrants, 1 million immigrants that came to Israel, third of them are not Jews. And they're, what they do in Haifa? They come to the Arab markets to buy pig meat and to buy church, to celebrate the Christmas. And that's totally is not accepted by Shas. There is even interesting processes that is taking place between Liberman and the Russian immigrants and the Arab communities in places like Haifa, Ma'alot Tarshiha, strange coalitions between the non-Jews Russians and even because there's mixed marriages in the Russian community and the Palestinian community. So I'm not sure that once you will see clear identity when you refer to Israeli, you have to know you mean hummus and falafel or you mean gefilte fish. Today, many people would like to see Israel the gefilte fish way. I think Israel is much more multicultural than gefilte fish culture. I think you understand what I meant with the gefilte fish and falafel.
We have about 10 minutes left. I think we can take another round. There's a gentleman in the red shirt. Are there other questions? Okay, one more. Okay. So we'll, if you keep your question to like 20, 30 seconds, so we have time. And also, Jafar, I'll ask you to keep your responses as succinct as possible so we can include as many people as possible.
So we have 10 minutes. Let's take all the questions and
Sure.
I'll be short.
Okay, let's do that. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Julian Kyle Lewis from the American University here in Washington. And I just walked in, but the first thing that you said as soon as I walked in was, I hope for this and I hope for that, and then you gave a bunch of reasons. And I have a question for you about your comprehension of a metaphysician and an astrophysicist and how they view history and their understanding of history. If you speak in a forum like this and people are this interested to hear what you have to say, you don't have to say you hope, because what you really hope to happen will actually happen if you have the courage to say what you want it to become. And that's just astrophysicist talk. So what do you think about that when you discuss these issues?
Okay. Sir?
I'm okay on the microphone. I'll save some time.
No, but you need it for the.
Oh, for that? Saab Zakisha from Saudi Arabia, President. My question will go back to the refugees. Now, I know Israel always keeps the refugee issue off the table. I need to know realistically, their argument is we can't have the refugees come back to Israel. Realistically, on the ground, is it possible for the refugees in exile to come back? And I have another quick question, if you may. Recently, we've been seeing countries from the Middle East, Gulf states are racing to form relations with Israel. Does that limit you guys to sit on the table and negotiate anything with Israel? Thank you.
Diane Perlman, George Mason School for Conflict Analysis and Resolution. There are different alternative creative strategies beyond one state, two state, of different kinds of arrangements that might satisfy certain basic needs and rights. And for example, Johan Galtung has an idea of a 6-state solution, modeled after the Middle East community, modeled after European community, and Organization for Security and Cooperation in the Middle East. So what do you think about that? And also, you mentioned something about 2,000 years, and I feel responsible as an American Jew. I have responsibility, but I always think in the Hatikva, there's a line, for 2,000 years we've been yearning, longing to be, saying to be a free people in our own land. So I think that's universal archetypal. And I also asked yesterday what about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Can you invoke that? Is there a way to invoke that?
Are there any other questions around the room? Okay. If not, then we'll just ask Jafar to tackle those questions and then give us any parting thoughts.
Yeah. Look, I'm coming from activism. We are acting on the ground. So, but like since many people told me there is American way to say things, I try to be polite. So I don't say, like do. Our American friends told me there is different way to say things here. Some people think that I learned from the Jewish Israelis to be chutzpah. You know what's chutzpah? To be direct, very direct, and to know to say, what you want. Yes, we hope for many things, and I always in the staff I say, like you put the dream and you make the plan to implement the dream. And the dream should be implemented in less than 2,000 years. I hope. So in this sense, yes, one of the things that we don't do, we don't go almost to the UN. We have a lot of respect to the UN declarations, but we work in the EU and in the member states, and we work in member states. Because one of the big lies that we were dealing with for years was the UN will give it. The UN gave Jewish state. This is what the UN gave. Since 48, actually, we refer a lot to international declarations on minority rights, human rights, but in the end of the day, the implementation of the international will is done by states. Okay, not only the United States, but countries and governments have responsibilities and they take decisions. In the end of the day, it's very important declarations. We teach and we educate our people to understand, you work in reality that the law is against you. So I go a lot to give lectures in many places for young people, and they told me, we hate the Israeli law, but then don't hate the traffic laws, for example. There is like the Jewish nation state law and the confiscation of the Waqf land law. There's many laws that discriminate us, over 35 laws that discriminate us. But then when it comes to educate your community about human rights values and even, to be involved in the creation of the traffic laws, you tell people put the seatbelt. They said, no, it's like, why? It's an Israeli law. I said, no, it's to protect you. So the fact that we are not included in the process of building the legislation created a situation that we have a hostile against this legislation. So to make the history, you need NGOs and you need political groups and etc. To make the history, you need to make the dreams with work plan. And part of the work plan is to come here and to tell you, we have a lot of respect to the UN, but the decision is in the hands of the American administration, of the EU. We go to meet Mogherini in the European Union, and she always tells us something like, let's see what the Americans are doing. And we are here, about a year and a half before your next election, and we need you to make sure that the next administration will look better and that the Democratic Party will not adopt the language that will isolate us and neglect us. So they are no, I don't want to go anymore to the one state, two states. I don't want. If Netanyahu wants to do that, let him do that. Our job to say self-determination of the Palestinians and to end the refugees project. Now, I'm coming from Haifa, my city. We have 11% of the population in Haifa. My father was in Haifa in 48 with his family. We were 70,000 Palestinians. In one day, we became 2,000 Palestinians. You need to rebuild your community and to find yourself after such a disaster in one day. We did that. We are today 44,000 Palestinians in Haifa, 11% of the inhabitants of the city. Very strong community. You know why? Because middle-class Palestinians from Nazareth, that they can't live anymore in Nazareth as a result of the discrimination, they moved to Haifa and they strengthened the economy of the city that is marginalized. Now, if I will go with you, Haifa is sitting in 7 valleys, I will make it short now. Very beautiful valleys, come and visit us. That's part of the hope, of the request. Come and visit us. We need interns, we need people to come and to work with us on the ground. one valley called Wadi Salib. Wadi Salib is almost empty. I will send you pictures. It's very beautiful Palestinian houses. Shut it down. They located there in the 50s, the immigrants from the Arab countries. They evacuated them after the clashes between these Jewish immigrants and the elite Ashkenaz in the 50s. They evacuated them, and these houses are empty. Give the people the feeling that you, as part of the reconciliation, you listen to them and to their needs. I will tell you last thing. Abu Mazen, in one of his declarations, said, I don't want to go to Safad. I was a month ago in Safad. I felt like this. I felt very bad. Safad, it's fun, Safad. Very beautiful Palestinian
This
city.
is this town.
Yeah, he said, I don't want to go to Safad. If I will be Jewish Israelis, that I came back after 2,000 years, I will not believe it. How you can, somebody that said, I'm coming back after 2,000 years, and this guy, will tell you, I don't want Safad. To deal with the core issues, it's about to put them on the table in a brave way, and to deal with them and to find solutions. Not to lie. Part of our challenges, and this is related also to the Arab countries, to your question about Arab countries, that we play the game. Yes, like short term, let's make peace and etc. I don't want to play the game for short term. I know that there is a reality that needs to be dealt with. Okay? I know that the Arab regimes in 48 were part of my tragedy. I feel free because I don't work in Kuwait. I don't work anywhere abroad. I am isolated. So I can say, in the future, any Arab regime that will play with our destiny again, he will make mistake at least, if not crime. It have been done in 48, and since 48, it have done again and again. So to tell me, they will sign an agreement with Netanyahu, look, we know that there is a businesses between many Arab regimes and Israel, without peace agreements and without any declarative agreement. So if Trump will force the Saudis or anybody else to sign agreement with Israel, that will not solve the Palestinian issue. In the end of the day, the Jewish people in Israel and in Palestine will need to solve and to build a future with us. They can talk to everybody else. They can solve all the deals and make the deal of the deals with everybody in the Middle East. If they will not make the deal with a Palestinian refugee, he will stand up again and he will say, I have a right, even if it will be after 2,000 years.
On that note, thank you, Jafar. Please join me, everyone, in thanking Jafar for a really fascinating and thought-provoking conversation. Hopefully, the beginning of many more to come. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.